KZMB All Zombie Radio.
Glitchy start to a glitchy podcast. Welcome to the Limited Series Lounge. This is a new series, a new limited series that we'll be discussing, entitled The Jinx. It was on HBO back in 2015. And if you know about it, you really know about it. I am making sure that our live is up and functioning properly, um, because that has not happened previously. Okay, here we go. Great. It's up. It's up. It's going. Fantastic. My co host, I don't know where she is. To be fair, it's a holiday. So she could be celebrating with her family. I, however, have given my dog a special cheese. Now I feel like I can't leave the house because she is not okay. She's high as a kite. She's flying somewhere else right now. Oh, okay. So, The Jinx aired in 2015. I happened to be working at a vegan vegetarian restaurant at the time. And this went over like gangbusters at my work. Okay. This show, along with a very popular podcast at the time, which I will mention shortly, but not right now. Also, ignore this. This is a pimple patch. Mind your business. Okay. Um, so this went over extremely well. I did not bother to watch it at that time. However, I heard about this a lot at the time that it was airing. It was in the zeitgeist of hipster mid 2010s, okay? And so since I was living that, hi Jermaine, happy 4th. I hope you're having a great day too. Since I was living in that life, I knew about it. And so we're going to get into it. I'm going to start off with an article that I found that kind of gives like a synopsis to the episode and kind of talks about like what was like prevalent in pop culture at the time. And then I prepped. I had time today. I prepped. I pulled up pictures of our cast of characters. And so we can talk kind of through the episode. I'm excited about this because I know what happens. I know what happens because again, it was in the zeitgeist. But Takeerah did not know what had happened with this story, and so I was excited for her to watch it. Now I will text her in a moment just to check in on her, but no pressure if she's not here. We've got another 5 episodes after this to really crack into, so I'm not super worried about it. Um, hold on one second. Okay, I apologize for the delay. Okay. All right. So let's start with the article. This article was written at the time of at the time. Oh my god, I almost shut down the whole thing. At the time of the episode coming out. It was written February 9th, 2015, by Clarence Moy, and it was written for Awards Daily TV, which is not something that I've like heard of before, but I just thought was like an interesting kind of snapshot of this time frame. So HBO's new series, The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, has been called everything from a documentary, which it is, to a crime drama, which it can be, to a miniseries, which technically it is. That's why it's here on Limited Series Lounge. Don't fault HBO for the lack of a true identification, though. The story of Robert Durst and the deaths that seem to follow him is as fascinating as any fictionalized account on television right now. Marketed as a panacea to those obsessed with NPR's phenomenally popular podcast, Serial, which was what I was going to mention. Serial was insanely popular at this time and was pretty much all my coworkers talked about. Now, I did listen to Serial come like 2016, I think. So I was a little bit late on the boat, but I did jump into that and it is fascinating. The first season is stunningly well done. So if you're interested in a good podcast, that is one that you should listen to. Um, I digress. The Jinx actually has more in common, at least from the pilot anyway, with HBO's other big crime drama, True Detective. Granted, there are natural differences between documentaries and works of fiction, but both pieces share strong similarities. A flashy, impressionistic opening sequence, a southern locale filled with colorful law enforcement in Galveston, Texas. True Detective writer Nick Pizzolatto's debut novel was set in and titled Galveston, and a morbid fascination with the details of a crime scene. In fact, the series' opening sequence offers a detective who nonchalantly describes pulling the titular body, a torso really, out of Galveston Bay by reaching in through the throat and grabbing the breastbone. He admits that it's the only time in his life where he could honestly say he'd reached down someone's throat. Okay. Takeerah is on her way. This and the subsequent crime scene photos of severed body parts are a gruesome, attention grabbing way to begin the series. It's not long before the murder victim's trail leads back to Robert Durst, a wealthy, eccentric New York real estate heir who had apparently been living in a rundown apartment as Dorothy Signer. Thus begins a dizzying account of the alleged true crime exploits of Durst, who proves over the course of the first hour to be a fascinating documentary subject. After his first arrest, Durst asked the incarcerating officer what he should do next with a bail set at $250,000. Do you have $250,000? Asked the officer, unaware of Durst's wealthy background. Well, not on me, Durst replies. The money is a mere phone call away, it turns out. After failing to appear for his first court appearance, Durst is later caught after stealing a hoagie from a grocery store in Pennsylvania. He had $500 in his pocket and over $37,000 in the trunk of his car. Clearly, the man could afford the price of a hoagie. So, why did he do it? I'm not sure director Andrew Jarecki really has the answer to this or the many questions raised about Robert Durst. To maintain focus on the series, I've tried to remain ignorant of the case, preferring for Jarecki to provide the facts over the course of the series. After all, Jarecki has a passion for the project after directing All Good Things, a feature film based on Durst's life and the unsolved disappearance of his first wife that starred Ryan Gosling and Kristen Dunst. Kristen Dunst. After all that, Durst caught the film and contacted Jarecki for a personal interview. A surprising turn of events for a man that initially appears to be somewhat enjoying his own celebrity. Unfortunately, the first episode cuts just as the interview begins. The only impressions we'd made of Durst up until this point are through previously recorded footage and prison recordings made of phone calls with his alarmingly supportive wife. Similar to NPR's Serial, there is a strong urge to uncover the facts behind the crime. As a crime drama, The Jinx is immediately compelling, as typically nothing is more bizarre than the truth. I suspect enjoyment of the series hinges on how much you know about the original crime. As a documentary, the jury's still out. The series' ultimate success hinges on how deeply Jarecki is able to dive into Durst's psyche. If Jarecki is able to provide a well-rounded portrait of the man, then The Jinx could be the stuff of legends. And as it turns out, it was. It was. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's watching along with us because I just think it's crazy. It's nothing's going to prepare you for what happens in the season. And I will let you know that we are only covering the first season at this time. So Limited Series Lounge just wrapped up BBC's 13. We're now going to cover the first season of The Jinx. And that was the intention, I believe, was just have the one season at the beginning of its creation. There is a second season. Okay, here we go. Here's Takeerah. If I can, what's going on here? Okay. Oh, all right. That was weird. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. It's okay. No worries.
So sorry.
No worries. No. I was just going through an article that was written about this first episode, and just like it was written after the airing of the first episode, so it's just a really interesting snapshot. I just wrapped it up, but it just kind of references a lot of things from this time period. So I'd been talking about how I remember very distinctly like what I was doing at the time of this being aired. and that a lot of people that I knew were really, really, really into it, but that they were also really into NPR's Serial podcast, which I did get
Oh yeah.
into shortly thereafter. And Serial was very well done, but this just kind of speaks to like what people were looking for in true crime, I guess, at the time. I think I don't know. This is a theory, right? But like we grew up watching 60 Minutes, 2020, Unsolved Mysteries, right? And so I think this was at a time where we were in our like 20s, mid to late 20s, some of us. It depends on how old you were when this came out, but you're in your 20s and you're thinking like, okay, I kind of miss these things that I'm like nostalgic for, even though it was weird that I was allowed to watch this as a child.
Hmm.
And so you were kind of looking for that true crime stuff, and YouTube was, YouTube was getting big, and so there was more access to true crime, and true crime stories, and there were YouTubers at the time really taking off with this concept of like covering true crime stories. And I think we were kind of like looking for it. So when it was delivered to us in these nice, like professional little packages, I think people of the age were like really eager to kind of take that in.
Hmm.
So, before I go any further with like the dates that this released and who directed it and yada 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 and all the people, what did you think of the first episode?
Um. Sorry. So sorry. L-
She's
I'm half.
asleep.
I'm half asleep.
She's asleep right now.
Um. I'm into it. Um. I was
Were
thinking
you were
about,
you mad that you could only watch one episode?
yeah,
Okay.
and especially because I couldn't find the remote when the episode ended. So like episode 2 started, and I'm like, don't,
No.
Richard, do something. Do something. And I had to like really truly just put my phone down
Mhm.
because yeah, I would have Googled and known everything that was going to happen for the rest of the
Okay,
episode.
I'm so glad you haven't, because like that's the thing I'm most excited for is us getting to the end of this because it's really, really, really crazy and really exciting. And so I'm really excited for you to see it like and experience it firsthand. I won't get that same experience because like I was told in great detail by one of my coworkers. I get like it was my coworker Joe. Joe, if you're watching this, I don't know why you would be, but like I love you and I miss you so much. But Joe was
Well,
just like he was obsessed. He was going on and on about this.
you said coworker, and I just have to say, of course, I'm not going to name any names, but
Mhm.
we're chit chatting like we kind of do in between time, and of course, I'm talking about true crime. I was actually talking about our podcast,
Yeah.
and we started talking about true crime because they wanted to know what we podcast about. So me and like three of the other people, I don't even want to say the profession right now. Um, we're just like talking about, oh, this, did you hear about this person? Did you hear
Mhm.
about this person? This story, this story. And then one of them goes, such and such's dad is a serial killer, right? And I go, what? And everybody goes, What?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's blah, blah, blah." And then the true crime junkie goes, "What?" So his name is recognizable because she just said the name and she was freaked out. And then this is everybody.
Yep. Yep.
But maybe if everyone forgets that I just had this conversation, we can do a one off because there is an episode about him on the
Okay.
true crime show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to that maybe. I don't know. We'll see how this true crime stuff goes for us. We'll see how this does. Okay. So, all right. So let me get into like the details of this actual show, okay? So, I
Oh,
just kind of talked about a synopsis of this, but I just want to talk about like when the show aired and yada yada. have to be careful about what I read because it gives away
Mhm.
things.
The only thing I will say that I did Google, I forgot because it just freaked me out too much.
Mhm.
I needed to know if the Limp Bizkit guy was related to this man.
Oh, Friend Durst? No.
Yeah.
God, wouldn't that be something?
I was like, wait a minute.
No. No relation at all. Okay. So I will say, like, ratings wise, this show looks pretty abysmal. Um, but it was on HBO. We're talking like premium cable network. So,
Yeah.
and this is like, yeah, like streaming apps are coming out around this time, but it's like not a thing yet,
Mhm.
you know? Trying to think like 2015. It's like they're there. I had an Apple TV. I know that I like had access, but I don't know, HBO at the time was like HBO Go, I think.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't even Max. It was like you had to have the subscription. You had to pay for it through like a cable provider in order to have the app.
Mhm.
Because of course I couldn't get it. And nobody would give me their freaking parents' login. Anyway. So see season one, which is the season that we will be covering before taking a break to switch to another limited series, which is what I was talking about earlier. If there is a lot of interest, we will go back for part two. I think we'll have to because I think that Takeerah is not going to be able to handle like not knowing what happens after this season. So I think we'll have to come back to it. But but in the meantime, we'll switch to something else and we'll probably do like a scripted drama. Um, there were a lot for us to choose from, so I'm not really sure where we're gonna go to. And then I was thinking, I don't know, we haven't done any like exclusive content because I only have 124 subscribers. But I was thinking it would be interesting to cover um the movie that All Good Things that is based on Robert Durst and his wife's life. So
Oh.
um that's kind of like the catalyst for this whole HBO series in the first place. All right. So episode 1 of season 1 is entitled A Body in the Bay. It is directed by Andrew Jarecki, as is the entirety of the first season and the entirety of the second season. Because of All Good Things coming out, Durst reaches out to Andrew Jarecki and asks him directly to do an interview, which is how we end up with this miniseries in the first place. This is written, and I use that term very loosely because this is a docuseries, so it's not really written, but there is some scripting to it, because you got to like finesse it, tie it together. Is written by Andrew Jarecki, Mark Smerling, and Zach Stewart Pontier, or I don't know. I'm going to say it's Pontier. I have no idea. The original release date was February 8th, 2015. So the article that we started off this episode with was written the day after the first episode aired. And the viewer ratings were 0.752,
Oh my god.
which is not the highest for this season, but it's almost. It
Mm.
kind of drops like real hard after this. However, gets a lot of press. so so a second season was pretty much guaranteed just because of that. All right. I did go ahead and I pulled up photos of absolutely everyone I could find. So I could give you our cast of characters. So now, I will mention Gary Jones is the first person in order of appearance. He is a detective for the Galveston Police Department. He is the man giving the insane interview at the beginning, talking about pulling the body out of the bay. I do not have a photo of him. There are hardly any photos of him. I didn't pull one. I could have pulled from from like the video itself, but I just didn't. The first photo I have is quite small, but it's Joel Bennett. He was the ADA at the time for Galveston. And so I will share these really quickly for you. Hold on 1 second. I have too many things pulled up. So my computer is having a rough time. All right. It's the worst photo, and it's so small, and I'm so sorry. But also, I kind of pulled up horrible photos of everyone, so you're welcome. So this is him. He's the ADA. We're gonna move on. Okay, so the next person to appear after that is actually someone who does a lot of interview and narration for us, and it's Cody Cazalas or Cazalis. Cazalis, I guess would be how to say his last name. And again, I'm just picking the worst photos I can find of everybody. So you're welcome. It's great. It's a great screen cap.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. I have to say, though, he's a handsome older gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a full head of hair. So, like, good for you, sir. Cody is like he's like a good old boy through and through. It would seem to me. This is very much giving like Galveston Police Department, honestly. He was a detective along with Gary Jones, and he's just very much giving that. Moving on to this is okay. Well, we're freezing. Okay. All right. Well, this is dramatic. All right. This is Randy Burroughs, a member of. Wait, what am I sharing? No, I'm sharing the right one. Okay. This is Randy Burroughs. Randy Burroughs was the member of the Galveston dive team that we see in the first couple minutes of this episode as they are searching the bay to look for the remaining part of the body that was missing, which I believe was the head.
Mm-hmm.
Because they found everything else. All right. And then we move on to, and this is all in order of appearance. So then we moved on to Deborah Lee, Robert's wife, Robert's second wife. She's a real piece of work. You know what I mean? Like, why does he look scared? Jermaine, they were terrified, okay? They had never dealt with such a scoundrel as Robert Durst. I have to say, I texted you, Takeerah, because you had watched the episode before I did. And so I texted you, and I believe my exact words were, "This guy is nutty."
Yeah.
I forgot how absolutely insane this case is. Robert Durst is nutty. God, this wife is a shit stirrer. Because that is real, like, big on that. Oh my gosh, she is just constantly pushing him to like change lawyers, to listen to her instead of this person. And I know it's because she's worried about the money. Yeah. Everything that she talks about, like, she's constantly trying to pit Robert against his brother, which we'll get to in a minute. And that's fair. Like, he may have long-term beef with his brother. I get that. But she's trying to like rev him up given any opportunity to get him to use the lawyer that she wants, because she's concerned that the family will have him marked as incompetent. And when that happens, she feels like it will null and void her marriage to Robert, which means she won't have the money anymore. She says
has the
that.
audacity to say it.
She says it. It's like, oh my gosh. And I love how when he's questioned about things that she says, he's like, "That's Debbie for you." I'm like, good Lord, man. What is happening? All right. So moving on to our next character here. We've got Charles V. Bagley, reporter for the New York Times. I don't know. It's a weird headshot, but this is a headshot from New York Times. So there you go. It's just so intense. Like, what vibe are you going for, dude? And then obviously, so we've got a lot of reporters that are picking up the story once it's found out that, that everything is happening down in Galveston and that that is Robert Durst. Like they wouldn't have cared. That's the thing. The next person on this list is Janine Pirro. She was the former DA from Westchester County in New York. And she states, I would not have cared about this person dying. What's his name? Morris Black. I would not have cared about this man dying if it weren't for Robert Durst. Which is a sad statement. But you've got to think about it in terms of like what's happening. I mean, there's deaths happening in your city every day.
Right.
You know, are you going to be bothered to know about something that happened all the way down in Galveston, Texas? Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. All right, next on our list is Robert's brother, Douglas Durst. He is Robert's younger brother and chairman of the Durst Organization, which is one of the oldest family-run commercial and residential real estate companies in New York City. Established in 1915, the company is owned and operated by the third and fourth generations of the Durst family. And they own 9 properties. He states in his beginning interview,
And
and
reads
lists
all
off all of the addresses, just in case you wanted to visit, I guess. Which I'm sure that's a tour in New York that you could go on.
I was so tempted to write every address
It's just not necessary. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just not necessary. And then finally, we see from the man himself, Robert Durst. Because honestly, a lot of this first episode has to do with what's happening, like kind of around him and to him, and not so much directly involving him and his interviews. Then we move on to another really bad photo because now we're getting into attorneys. So I don't have great photos of them. This one is John Waldron, attorney for Robert Durst. There was also Michael Kennedy, the family's attorney. And then there is some conversation between Debbie and Rob about who he should hire, and he decides to pay 2 men to to be his lawyers. And one of them is Dick DeGuerin, who Robert wanted to be his lawyer. And then I believe the other one was John Waldron, who Debbie wanted. She didn't want Dick DeGuerin though. I just thought this was just like there's so much happening in this photo. The hat, the stuffed cougar or mountain lion down here in the corner. I don't know. What is this? An instrument up here? There's just a lot happening in this desk behind you. And then we get into our director and writers. So this is Andrew Jarecki. This is what's his name? The one that I can't remember his name. Mark Smerling. Mark Smerling. And then I will also show you Zach Stewart Pontier. He honestly looks like the guy from Amelie. It's like freaking me out a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? The like love interest from Amelie, the boyfriend. That's who he looks like to me. That can't be him. There's no freaking way. That would be so weird. I don't know what that guy's name was, but this guy looks like him. Anyway, okay, so that's everyone that was introduced in the first episode. I'm going to go ahead and just close these because I don't really need to go back to any of that, do I? I don't think so. I don't think so. All right. So a lot happened. A lot did happen. And I don't really know how to break this down because it's like where do you go from here? You know? Um, what do you start with? I don't know, because I can't even give you the complete story. It would be different if we were covering like the entire story, then I could kind of give you all of the basics, but it's not. But I guess let's start from kind of the top of what happens. So a man is renting out an apartment, like half a flat. I don't. Oh, for the love of God, leave me alone. Half a flat, to a woman, a woman named Dorothy. Turns out it's just Robert Durst.
Bridget,
Which
wait.
is like, we haven't even gotten into this. It's like they just like rolled right past that. They're like, yeah. It's Robert Durst and drag. Don't worry about it. Don't even think about it another second. We're
But
moving on.
no, at first he goes, and occasionally there would be a man on the porch smoking.
Robert, obviously. It's
I'm like,
Robert in drag versus
you
Robert out of drag.
dummies.
They must have been cousins because they looked really similar. Yeah, it's the same person. I mean, good for you, I guess. You're convincing. I am like, I'm baffled by it. But anyway, this all starts because there is a death.
Hmm.
There is a death. Let me pull up.
Oh
Sorry,
wait,
I
and the
just,
lady was mute and all this other stuff.
I don't know. There is
But
some
then he said that
crazy.
like she was out, like she was out busy or something. Every time someone needed to talk, I'm like, you know what?
It's insane. The story is insane. And like, this isn't even, we haven't even gotten to the crazy part. This is just like the normal part. Okay. So, yeah. So they find a torso in the bay. Then it comes out that it's like not just a torso. It's like, it's almost a full body. They're all in trash bags, the pieces, the parts. The algorithm is really gonna love this one.
That-
Oh, what is happening? Okay, something is playing sound on here. Stop. Okay. Sorry about that. That is terrifying and it won't stop. Okay. Anyway, so they pull out all of these pieces. Honestly, to me, it looked like a woman's body.
Mhm.
Those legs were looking quite I don't know, svelte? I don't know what word do I wanna say? I don't know. I was stunned when it turned out to be a man's body. Um, he was a svelte man. Anyway, unfortunately, it was a teenage boy who finds this body because he's
Mhm.
fishing. Um, everything had washed up except for the head. They spent several days searching, but that part was never recovered. Um, and the one of the things that they found that was most important initially was a newspaper and it had an address on it. Because if you're going to be good at killing people, I guess you're going to be really sloppy about it. So they found an address. It was 2213 Avenue K. They go to that address and there's blood on the stair rail. And they stated that it actually kind of trailed just right out to the road. So it's like, what is happening? They found out that the guy who owned the building was named Klaus Dillman. Um, and they were able to figure out that there was a downstairs tenant named Morris Black that lived in apartment number 1, and then apartment number 2 was rented by Dorothy Signer, who was a mute female. A mute female. Not a mute female. Robert Durst in drag, but refusing to speak because that would be the dead giveaway. Um Okay, so they were able to identify the victim was indeed Morris Black, the tenant from apartment 1. So obviously, the tenant in apartment 2 suddenly becomes your top suspect because they're gone and also because there's blood in a trail. Um, someone had wiped up blood, which led into apartment 2. so, so just bang up work here. And so they gained a search warrant to go into apartment 2, and it looked like clean, for what they did categorize it as a dump, like this place.
Mhm.
It did look fairly clean, but there were drop cloths all over the kitchen floor. As one has when they're in a kill room. It's like it's so Dexter, this like approach to this. It's insane. They pulled up the drop cloths and then they noticed that there were cuts in the like linoleum. And so they actually ended up cutting out part of the linoleum, which they reenacted for this documentary, which I thought was really weird. And they did end up finding a blood stain underneath in the subflooring. And they were able to match that back to Morris Black's blood. So they knew that that was where he had been dismembered at the very least. And honestly, then we don't get a lot more information about this. This is like really where this they're like, "Oh, you want to know what happened to Morris Black? Well, he's dead." And Robert Durst is dressed as a lady. And that's all you get really in this episode. But the detectives are like, they're like, okay, if Dorothy Signer is constantly traveling and has like all this money, like why is she living here? And then they were given the description that Dorothy Signer was a real ugly deaf mute woman.
Listen.
I can't handle, like, it's so hard to take this seriously. Like, this is horrible. People are dead, but this is insane. This is ridiculous. Robert just was an idiot. It's like so stupid. Okay, there were very few personal items in the apartment. There was nothing to suggest that a woman lived there. Quote unquote, a mute female that travels a lot. But a guy will be coming around every now and then this is when Cody, the detective, says, "Well, there's no Dorothy Signer. That's just a cover. This guy's renting this place for whatever reason." And so they go through the trash can in the alley behind the house and they pull everything out. They photograph it, they label it, they catalog everything. It all goes into evidence. The writers did her dirty. It's not the writers, it's the detectives are giving these descriptions. It's so funny. Um okay, so they found an appointment receipt because again, Robert Durst is an absolute moron. And on that, it was eyeglasses and then it had the name. So it was like a reminder to pick up your eyeglasses when they were done. And it had Robert Durst written at the top of it. Now, they don't know who Robert Durst is because, like, they're not in New York City, so they don't know, like, the name. But the detective Cody goes to the eyeglass shop and he's like, "Call me if this guy comes." I don't think he will, but like, here's my card. Here's my pager number because it's the time frame we're in.
Oh yeah.
And she pages him. And so he goes back and like Durst happens to be pulling out of the parking lot as this happened. And they had also found a price tag from Chalmers Hardware, which was like 2 blocks from the house. And among the things that were bought, this is Bennett is saying this, were a 4-inch paring knife, drop cloths with the Chalmers tags on it. And then Cody says, and also a bow saw. And they find a bow saw in the vehicle that Robert is driving. Just in the back. Just laying in the back. So they're like, yeah, for sure we got this guy. So they arrest him, but they do set bail and they set bond at $250,000 because they don't know who this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is happening in a time frame in which like information is not like we still have pagers. Okay. So like information is not readily available to you, and so they do not know who this guy is, so they set bond for $250,000. He calls somebody up, calls up Debbie wires the money, and he's out the next day. And he doesn't come in for his trial.
Remember the guy called him like, he just called some lady and she's sending the bail money.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He goes, Cody, this Durst guy, he made a phone call to someone named Deborah in New York, told them he was in Galveston, Texas, under arrest for murder. He needed $250,000. And she said, no problem. It'll be there in the morning. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And this is where we meet Debbie, who, like I said, is an absolute shit stirrer. And she could not remember when she married Robert, which was so weird to me. That's so, like, it's here, like, yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Married him for the wrong reasons, you know what I mean? She's after that money. Yes, Chalmers is the superintendent on The Simpsons train. Correct.
Oh, thanks for the shirt compliment. Sorry, I forgot to say because I'm still asleep.
Okay, so then she's like, I don't know. He's just doing whatever he wants and she doesn't care. Which is also weird. Because why is he living in Galveston if you're in New York? But okay. Sure, whatever. And every time, what I did enjoy about her interview is like when they're like, okay, so when he got out, where did he go? She laughs and she goes, I'm in New York. He's in Galveston. He probably went to the bail bonds office. And then he probably went home. Do I know? Was I there? I wasn't there. And like, it's like, just, it's very New Yorker, but it does crack me up because it's like, I don't know why they're asking her. They're trying to get some information out of her. She doesn't have it. But she's also ride or die for this dude. Like unexpectedly, like ride or die for this dude. So Detective Cody talks about how when he got in, he had like 21 messages the next day because they had arrested like a big to-do guy and he didn't know any of that. And so there were people looking for more information because he's from one of the richest families in New York City. Okay. Then we find out, because they play clips from old news outlets, Robert Durst first made headlines after he reported his wife missing in 1982, and to this day, the case remains unsolved. Family of Kathleen Durst from the beginning had said they believed Robert Durst was responsible. He had always maintained his innocence. Family sources tell News Channel 4 Robert Durst relocated to Galveston, Texas. They were unsure what he was doing there. And so he, like, no one knows why he's there. His first wife is missing and it was never found. He's the one who reported her missing. And his brother, we come to find out after he's listed off the many buildings that they own. It does not have them all here in this transcript. It only has 2 of them. That he actually hired a bodyguard during this time frame.
Oh, yeah.
When his brother skipped bail, he hired a bodyguard to ensure that his brother did not get close to his family. Douglas did. Yeah, so he was due at 10 a.m. He decided to run. And then the only reason he gets caught is because he goes to a Wegmans, which, like, I only know what that is because Wegmans is like moving down the East Coast. It's like a New York grocery store that everyone goes, I don't know. Okay, so I live in an area where a lot of New Yorkers move to, and I have to say I don't love it all the time because they want to do zipper merging, and I got a lot to say about it. Okay, I got a lot to say about it. Plus, they be giving me the finger and honking the second the light turns green. We don't operate like that here. Okay, so slow down. This is in New York City. Calm down. But anyway, Wegman started to move here And I know a lot of people from the New York area because this is just a New York heavy transplant area. And everyone went just crazy over the fact that there was going to be Wegmans here. I have to tell you, it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life.
I love Wegmans.
Wegmans is fine. Like, it's not, I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys are eating there, but just a regular grocery store as far as I'm concerned. Publix is superior. In my opinion, Publix is superior. But you guys don't even have Publix up there.
I've lived in many places.
That's true. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. You lived in the South. I'm like, they're not in Minnesota and they're not where you are now. But no, you've lived in a lot of places. In my opinion, Publix is better. But I don't know. You tell me. What am I supposed to be ordering from Wegmans?
Um, I mean, I mean, yeah, they're like the same as Publix. Like you can get pretty much any food you can kind of think of because they have so many different areas that make food.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the bread section is superior at Wegmans, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, then my question is, what was Robert's order? What kind of sub was he taking out of this place that was worth getting arrested for? Because I gotta
He's a
know.
freaking idiot. He is the freaking idiot.
They
First
don't
of
go into
all,
any
who
details about the sub,
steals
Sailor.
from Wegmans? What the heck is.
I don't know. What was crazier is that he had $500 in his wallet and $37,000 in his trunk.
I'm done. When they said he had more than $10 in his car, I was over it. I said,
I
you know
know.
what?
I know. So we come to find out he's had many aliases. So many. There was like a Victor or a Vincent. There's Dorothy Signer. There's other ones. There were a lot of them. And some of them are listed on the FBI's most wanted list. They found a bank account that he had set up as Emilio Vignoni, and he had rented a car from a place in Mobile, Alabama, saying that he was Morris Black, the guy he had just killed. And this is where the detectives are like, he's not crazy. Because it's really easy to like say like he's clearly insane. And he is. But they're like, he's diabolical.
Right. He's the other insane. He's not.
There's no telling where he's going next.
Yeah.
So okay, so then Bagley comes in at this point, and he's the New York Times reporter. And he's like, when Bob didn't show up to his hearing and we realized he's on the run, I was as curious as anyone else about where he was. And so I was calling places where he had lived. Okay, so Robert Durst had returned to South Salem in Westchester County in New York, where the DA is. And a neighbor noticed him seemingly lost in thought on a dock at Lake Truesdale, behind the tree-shrouded stone cottage he once shared with his wife Kathleen. It was his birthday and their wedding anniversary, though she had vanished. And he left. This is how they worded it. Mr. Durst's reverie on the dock suddenly ended when a neighbor strolled down to the lakefront. The neighbor, of course, was the woman that had moved into the house that Bob had lived in. So this is clearly like a private dock that he's on. Anyway, he ends up getting arrested at age 58 in a Wegmans grocery store in Hanover Township after allegedly trying to steal a hoagie. And everyone's like, how could he be that stupid? Like this, it almost seems planned because it's so insane. And he just stared at the person arresting him and said, I'm not saying another word until I speak to an attorney. And then police searched his rental car. They found 2 loaded guns. It said some marijuana, but I would argue that was a lot of marijuana.
Yeah.
Because it was a large bag of marijuana. I was like, some.
all of the marijuana.
It's a lot of marijuana. 30, I'm sorry, it wasn't 37, it was $38,000 in cash and an ID for one Morris Black. Why would a guy with $520 in his pocket and $37,000 in his trunk walk into a Wegmans and steal a sandwich? Nobody knows.
Okay. So let me explain. He was in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Second mistake. Dude, it's Wegmans. One of the bougiest of bougie supermarkets.
For real. That's the only thing I know about it.
What is happening?
I don't know.
They are watching every centimeter of that store.
I know.
On camera. A hoagie, Bridget.
A hoagie out of everything. Then we get another stunning interview with Deborah in which she says, Detective, during that time, did he call you regularly? Yes. And in any of those conversations, did he indicate what his plans were in the future? This is my favorite part. Since I'm sure that you know those conversations were taped and they probably are public, you could read for yourself because I don't really remember what conversations we had. And then it proceeds to play an interview, like a tape, and it's like, Robert's like, it's very cold in this prison. It's very cold in here. It's like super New York. And she's like, yeah, it's cold out. Well, it's cold out, but it feels like it's cold in this prison. I'm sitting here all covered with a sweatshirt. Some guys were quote unquote in paper. I know that, you told me. She's like, do you wear that thing? Do you wear the jumpsuit? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's very warm. It is comfy. I never wore a jumpsuit until I got here. It's a very comfy thing. It's easy to take on and off. Right now, I'm out here in the thing, and I have it on over my long johns and a sweatshirt, and it's still cold. I'm like, what? That was like insane conversation to be having. Okay. Anyway, then there's some like court deposition stuff about like, did he work for the Durst organization? And they're like, what did you do there? And this was very funny because he's like, do you mean what titles I had? Because I didn't do anything. And he seems very nonchalant about the fact that his brother was picked to take over the business. He doesn't seem like he even wanted to do it. He doesn't care. Nope. However, Debbie does care. Debbie does care. He screwed you out of everything. Your birthright, the entire Durst organization, and you forgot? That's what she says. And he's like, right, he took over the family business. No doubt about it. Okay, he took it from you. He could have done it with you. There were a lot of choices he could have done, but no, he took it from you. And his plan was to destroy you and embarrass you, and he did it. This is where I was like, what?
I said, she might be more crazy than he is.
She's so riled up. She's so riled up. And then someone does give this quote. The level of enmity is so great that Douglas Durst even went so far as to hire a bodyguard to protect himself from Robert Durst. Close quote. Do you remember that allegation? A detective is now asking Robert Durst. He said, I remember that occurred. Do you know why Douglas Durst hired a bodyguard? Because he's a pussy. I can't, like, what? That's his reasoning. He says why he would be scared of me, I have no idea. Dude, you literally killed someone and then just and then just like jumped bail and then walked into a Wegmans, acted like nothing had happened. Ugh.
The
Okay.
steel hoagie.
Then when he's clearly being taken in, after this arrest for the sandwich. He's being taken into court and he's going to be charged with all this stuff. And he's talking to Debbie on the phone and he's like, trying not to think about it. I'm trying not to plan, but what kind of look I should have on my face? Am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be smiling or am I supposed to be grim? And she's like, just have as close to no expression as you can possibly have. And we see the video footage of that after that. The documentary does a really great job of lining that up. Um anyway, I'm trying to think if there's really anything else during this. It's more conversation about like who they're gonna hire. Um they want to get rid of Michael Kennedy, the family's lawyer. And he wants Dick DeGuerin. But Debbie wants a Debbie wants Mike Ramsey. I'm sorry, Mike Ramsey was the other guy that she wanted. And so both of them got hired by Durst because that's how much money he had. Which is crazy. Anyway, then at this time we get the red carpet of All Good Things. And this movie has been created starring Kirsten Dunst and Ryan Gosling, which I've never watched. So now I'm like, oh, I've got to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
And Eamon Bowles is a part of this production as well, and so this is his like part in the documentary. I didn't show a picture of him earlier because he's on it for like a split second. Anyway, he just gets Robert in touch with Jarecki, and now Jarecki talks to him and essentially agrees that he will tell Robert Durst's story, which is what Robert wants. And then there's this really interesting part by this detective Cody Gonzalez. He says, I don't think Bob Durst is the kind of man that kills for the thrill of the kill. I don't think he takes any particular pleasure in killing. But if you back him in a corner, if you threaten his freedom, he'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of the first episode. And so, really, this does a great job of drawing you in. It's laid out so many more questions because, like,
How did I miss the all good things part? I'm like, what
I
the
don't
heck?
know. I don't know. It was they show Kirsten Dunst and Ryan Gosling. They're like taking photos together on the red carpet. Um anyway, it's short. It's not for a very long period of time. It's a short clip.
One of these
But
children must have distracted me.
but so you're left with a lot more questions because what happens with the Morse Black case? We don't know. What about his wife, his first wife? Why are his aliases on the FBI's most wanted list?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else has this man done that we're unaware of? That he's got aliases that he's able to hide, and that he's got a wife behind him who's like, just like, yeah, I'll take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on? So there's a lot of really interesting questions that this brings up. So this was like a really great first episode of a documentary. It really draws you in, draws in the viewer. And so as someone who I know what happens at the end of this, but I'm still excited to watch the next episode. I was mad I had to stop because it is good. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really well done one. And so I'm really excited to continue. Do you have anything else to say about it?
Um, just that I'm proud of myself for not watching the second episode.
I'm so glad. I thought you were going to spoil yourself for sure. I was like, she is going to spoil herself.
And I think honestly, if I didn't have to work the next day and wasn't tired, I would have been like, let me just watch 10 minutes of
You're going to get sucked in. You're
it.
going to get sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I know this was a bit unusual. We did this on the 4th of July. It's all right. It's not dark yet. Fireworks haven't started.
Oh, and I will, so many times we hear women say, oh my God, he was so handsome when they're talking about some man that did something despicable. I'll say he's a good looking guy this this one.
Robert?
Yeah.
He's very mousy, in my
He's
opinion.
not like, oh my God, he's so handsome. But I was like, okay, this one's kind of good looking.
He's very mousy to me. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like he's got some level of attractiveness.
Right.
But I have to say, I have a hard disagree on that when people are like, oh yeah, Ted Bundy, he was so cute. No, he was not.
No, he was not.
Barf. Barf. The only one who was attractive had the most fouling smelling breath, is what everyone said. Ramirez. So no, they are never attractive. Neither was Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't care what you guys say. Don't gaslight me into thinking those people are attractive. They're not.
At all. And I don't know. And these people, they have like proposals being mailed to them.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's sick, honestly. Anyway, I'm excited for episode 2, which we will be covering next week, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limited Series Lounge. And here, do the thing. I have it set up right now. There you go. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. And if you want to support the channel, head on over to ko-fi.com/Punky Bruiseter. That's PUNKY BRUISETER. Check the description box for more details on my compadre here with me. And yeah, thank you for being here and joining us. Thank you, Jermaine, for being here.
Maybe it's the money. It's just he's able to look very polished and
yes, there's wealth there.
Yeah.
There's wealth there. Yeah. I'll never know that. I'd be unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
This personality and wealth, there'd be no stopping me. God knew. He couldn't give me that much power. He had to keep me humble. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We love you so much. My sweet, sweet angel babies. Special shout out to Durga, who tipped us on our last stream. So thank you so much, Durga. That was so sweet. And I know that you cannot watch these videos live, but I hope that you're watching them after the fact and that you are watching The Jinx with us. If you did enjoy this episode and there's anything that we're like missing, or that you're like, hey, if you're going to do true crime, do it this way, feel free to leave that in the comments. I would happily take any constructive criticism that you can offer us. All right. We love you guys.